In this video, we're talking about rescue dogs, how and why dogs end up in shelters, the things that you need to be aware of when you're looking at rehoming a dog, and I'll share with you some tips that might help you make a good choice. My name's Nikhil and welcome to Canine Care Obedience Training. I've been a professional trainer since 2010. I've worked with thousands of clients. I'm also a preferred trainer at a local shelter. I've had 5 dogs in my life. Shanty in the back here, she's the only dog I've ever bought from a breeder. The 4 other dogs I've had previously have all been rehomed rescue dogs. 3 of them worked out and 1 didn't. Stick around to the end and I'll tell you what happened. Rehoming a dog is a lot like buying a second-hand vehicle. You want to do a bit of research and you want to check things like the service history. So why do dogs end up in shelters? They can end up in shelters for quite a few reasons. One of them commonly is change of circumstance on behalf of the owners. Someone might have got sick or died, or the people could be moving interstate, or they could be just moving into a place where they can't take their dog with them, which is pretty sad. Another reason is that they just can't actually afford to keep their dog. They didn't do enough research when they were getting their puppy, and they didn't understand the financial implications of what they were getting themselves in for. Dogs can also be rescued from various different places like puppy farms. They can be surrendered in the teenage period of their life because they just got too difficult to manage. And sometimes, and really sadly, they're just found on the street. And that is when they end up in a place like this, which is the Fremantle Pound. They'll stay here for a while, and if they're not claimed, they'll stay here for a while, and if they're not claimed, they'll be sent to a shelter where they'll be rehomed. A very sad set of circumstances, for sure. Rescuing a dog is a great thing to do, but be mindful that not all dogs have had caring owners. Not all dogs have come from great homes. Not all dogs have had the best start in life. I see them often as juveniles that have been poorly trained and or poorly socialised, and this can make them quite a challenging handful, especially for a novice owner. So if a dog was a ball, you'd have 3 choices. You can have the bright red one that's a bunch of fun, it's got a bit of a squeak. You might get the dull pink one that is still a bit of fun and might come up good. You might get attracted to the bright yellow one. Looks like fun, but when you look at it more closely, you find out that this ball is actually broken. If you're going to rehome a dog, do as much research as you possibly can, find out as much history about that dog as you possibly can so you can make a well-informed choice. Let's keep going. The dog's history and background is everything. Find out as much information as you possibly can. The dog's name, age and breed, and is that name their original or is it a new one? Some simple things to start with. How did the dog end up being in the shelter? Was it found on the street or was it surrendered by a family? And if so, why? How long has it been in the shelter? Has it left the shelter and been returned because it wasn't a good fit? And what is the shelter's assessment of that dog with respect to its level of sociability and its level of training? And there's a bunch more stuff you can ask, but that will surely give you a starting point. Let's get going. If you're finding this video useful, please let me know. Either like it or leave me a comment. If you're finding it really useful, please hit the subscribe and that ding dong to find out when new videos are coming out. And don't forget to stick around to the end to find out what happened to that dog that I rescued that didn't work out. So if you're going to rehome a dog that hasn't been well socialised and or hasn't been well trained, you kind of need to know what that means to you so you can make an informed choice. Now, it's not black and white, it's a spectrum. It goes from good to bad. Okay, the training could be poor or it could be good. The socialisation could be poor or it could be good. Now, if you get a dog that's well trained but poorly socialised, you kind of got a problem. If you get a dog that's really social, that's been poorly trained, you're going to be a little bit better off. But if you get a dog that has been really poorly socialised and really badly trained, Houston, we have a problem. One of the things you're going to be looking for is a dog that is social, at least with other dogs and people. You want to be able to come to the river and the beach and hang out with your dog. Quite often, if they've been poorly socialised, they're going to be fearful and apprehensive of things that you see in everyday life. It could be men, it could be people walking down the street. If you get a dog that's unsocial with other dogs, how on earth are you going to come somewhere like this and enjoy this fantastic environment? As far as a dog that's been poorly trained is concerned, you're going to be playing catch up with a dog that hasn't been taught the basic things in life, to respond to their name, to sit, to stay and to come. They probably jump on people that they meet and pull like a train on the lead. And as for coming back at the park, it's going to be frustrating for a while. But you can catch up with training. It just takes time, effort and input, and you just need to find out how to train your dog well to make that happen, and expect change to happen over weeks and months rather than in days and hours. Righty, good job, good job. Having a well-trained dog that's social is a ton of fun, isn't it, Shanty? Speak. Good job. It's really important to be able to make a well-informed and good choice about getting a rescue dog. Try and avoid buying them online. You're much better off going to be able to visit the dog and meet them and get a feel for them. Visit them several times. Make sure they're social with all elements of your life and your family. If you have another dog, take your dog there, see if they get on. If you have a cat, make sure the shelter has checked them for sociability with cats. Try also to take a dog on a trial basis if at all possible, so you can see how it goes. Many dogs go back to shelters because they didn't work out, they weren't a good fit for the environment in which they were rehomed into. So just be mindful around these things. Let me take you through some possible scenarios that you might encounter. The best scenario is the red squeaky ball, a dog that's a lot of fun to be with. They've been well trained and they're well socially adjusted. They could also be a puppy, but a puppy that's come from a good background, not a puppy that's come from an abusive environment. A common scenario I come across is the dull pink ball that's lost its squeak. This might be an adolescent dog of 8 to 12 months old, which by the way now is fully grown, and if they're a medium to large size dog, they're pretty strong. They'll have a history of poor training and poor socialisation, but it's kind of on that spectrum that we spoke about before. So just work out where on that spectrum they are, and work out if you're the right person who can put in the time, effort and commitment to get that dog to be bright, shiny, red and squeaky again, because someone else is handing their ball to you that they didn't do a lot with. The next scenario is the difficult scenario. These can be dogs that have come from abusive backgrounds, they've been mistreated, they can have fears, anxieties, phobias, they can be obsessive, they can be compulsive. These dogs need an awful lot of support. They need an awful lot of time and effort put into them to help them be better dogs. Now, the caveat is here that nothing is guaranteed, and when you've got a significantly dysfunctional dog, you may only be able to get them so far down to the good end of the spectrum, and there are no guarantees. These dogs are best suited for people with lots of experience and are dedicated and can put in the time and effort that's required to help that dog. Now, there is one other scenario, and that is the worst case scenario. This is something I came across a couple of years ago. Some delightful people had just rehomed a 6-month-old cattle dog cross. They asked me to look after it for a day. It presented as highly anxious. I watched it pace my garden for 3 hours, looking at a place in the fence where it might escape from. It didn't have a drink for that whole time. It became most comfortable when I thought I might tether this dog up in the shade under a tree, and then it actually relaxed and lay down. It took some 4 or 5 hours for that dog to actually interact with me in any meaningful way whatsoever. Now, 3 months later, I rang the owners and said, "How are you going with that little dog?" And they said, "We're going okay. You know, there's a lot of work to do, but it's going okay." Now, a couple of months later, they rang me and they said that they let their dog off in the park the day before, and it just ran up to a guy sitting on a bench minding his own business and attacked him. They had to have that dog euthanized. It's a terrible story, but it's true, and I think you need to know that these things exist. So, the 4 rescue dogs that I've had. The first 3 I got as puppies from a local shelter, Shenton Park. I got them at 8 weeks of age in this beautiful blank canvas period of a puppy's life where they're highly receptive to learning and social experiences. They were all these sorts of balls, as is Shanty. The 4th dog that I had as a rescue was after one of my dogs passed away at 15, Zach, my black and tan Kelpie. Great dog. Found on Gumtree, 12 months old, black and tan Kelpie, just what I was looking for. Brilliantly trained at home, bright, shiny, yellow, full of fun. But in the face of other dogs, it couldn't cope. It was a broken ball. I had this dog for a month. I worked with a trainer, with an animal behaviourist who was helping me out. I was confident I could work on the socialisation side of things, being a trainer, even though it was quite difficult. But something happened one day that decided it for me, and it was this. The dog had been with me for a few weeks. It was sleeping in the house. I'd reorganised some furniture in my courtyard. The dog woke up and walked out into the backyard and noticed a table had moved and the chair was over there, and it couldn't handle it. It went and hid in the toilet shaking for 3 hours. I was fortunate that I could get in contact with the lady that I'd rehomed it from and negotiate returning the dog to her. Otherwise, I'd have been stuck with a broken ball, which wouldn't have been a lot of fun. So guys, moral of this story is rehoming dogs is a good thing to do, but be aware of the things that you need to be aware of so you can make a well-informed choice. Thanks for watching, guys. If you found this useful, don't forget to like, leave me a comment, subscribe if you really liked it, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.